Kathy Angelberg's leadership is under fire, and Caitlin Clark's next move could blow the doors off women's basketball. For months, Angelberg has shrugged off Clark's impact, treating her star power as just another name on the roster. But the numbers don't lie. Every surge in audience, every sold-out arena, every bump in revenue is tied directly to Clark's presence. Now, with a $100 million offer on the table, one that would let her bypass the WNBA entirely and start her own empire, Clark is no longer just a player. She's the pivot point in a battle between loyalty and legacy, and a league's failure to treat her as such might cost them everything.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
If Clark walks, she doesn't just leave a team. She leaves behind an entire infrastructure that refused to evolve. The WNBA's mismanagement has already alienated fans and fumbled opportunities. But losing Clark would be a self-inflicted collapse. Portnoy's proposal throws a spotlight on the league's fragility, daring Clark to make history on her own terms. Whether she stays or leaves, the decision will mark a defining moment, not just in her career, but in the future of women's sports itself. The WNBA is officially in crisis mode. The league's brightest star, Caitlin Clark, just got hit with a $100 million offer to walk away. Not just from her contract, not just from a team, but from the entire league. And the offer didn't come from another franchise or a media company. It came from Dave Portnoy. Yes, that Dave Portnoy, loud, polarizing, media-savvy, with backing from billionaire investors ready to throw down a 9-figure check to have Clark lead a brand-new, independent women's basketball empire. This isn't just a deal. It's a direct threat to the WNBA's structure, stability, and very existence. Let's get one thing straight. Caitlin Clark isn't just a standout athlete. She is the WNBA's business model right now. Her presence alone has sparked a tidal wave of attention. Viewership is up. Ticket sales are up. Media coverage, brand partnerships, viral moments, you name it. Every meaningful metric tied to the league's recent success traces back to her. And yet, the league has treated her like she's expendable. Or worse, like she's a problem. From the moment she entered the league, there's been tension. While fans flooded arenas to see her play and sponsors lined up to cash in on the Clark effect, the WNBA's leadership under Commissioner Kathy Angelberg seemed bizarrely disconnected. Instead of elevating Clark and riding the momentum, the leadership doubled down on parity, tone policing, and vague messaging about team over individual. It backfired. Because here's the hard truth. The league is heavily dependent on Caitlin Clark. Without her, there is no media frenzy. Without her, there's no sold-out road games in cities that previously struggled to fill seats. She's the one pulling the numbers. And that kind of leverage doesn't just go unnoticed. It gets capitalized on. Enter Portnoy. The $100 million offer isn't just a golden ticket. It's a mirror. One that reflects every misstep the league has made since Clark turned pro. It exposes the leadership failures, the tone-deaf PR strategies, and the reluctance to acknowledge what's obvious to everyone else. Clark is the engine keeping this whole machine running. And the fact that someone outside the league had to be the one to treat her like the star she is, that's the most damning part. Portnoy's move is strategic. It's not just about poaching a player. It's about proving a point. If the WNBA won't embrace the future, someone else will. And they'll do it with money, media muscle, and a better understanding of what fans actually want to see. This isn't just a Caitlin Clark story. It's a league on the brink story. And the people in charge are scrambling to play catch-up. Because what happens if Clark actually takes the deal? The answer's brutal. Ratings nosedive. Ticket sales plummet. The energy that's carried the WNBA through its most relevant season in years vanishes. Sponsors shift focus. The national conversation moves on, and the WNBA left trying to convince fans that it wasn't all about one player, even though all the data says otherwise. That's the trap the league built for itself. Instead of embracing Clark's popularity, they tried to neutralize it. Instead of marketing her as the future, they treated her like a footnote in a league-wide narrative of shared success. And while some of that may have been rooted in good intentions, The results speak for themselves. There's a gap between what the fans want and what the league is delivering. And that gap keeps widening. Now the league is staring down the very real possibility that its star player could walk away. Not because she's unhappy with basketball, but because the infrastructure around her refuses to evolve. And for $100 million, she wouldn't just be walking away. She'd be walking up into a position of power, ownership, and control that the WNBA has never been willing to offer. Let's be clear, this is a cultural shift as much as it is a financial one. Because if Clark accepts this deal, she's not just changing leagues. She's rewriting the playbook for women's sports. No one's ever done what she's being offered. No one's had the platform, the audience, and the investment lined up to flip the whole model. And the fact that the offer is on the table tells you everything about how the outside world views the WNBA's current leadership. They don't trust them to steer the ship. They see mismanagement. They see missed opportunities. They see a league unwilling to put its best foot forward, even when that foot is generating record-breaking buzz. Kathy Angelberg, in particular, is facing heavy criticism. Her leadership style has been described as tone-deaf, reactive, and insular. She's dismissed Clark's impact, failed to address growing frustrations from fans, and ignored the opportunity to lean into the popularity wave. Instead, she's let the league fumble its most valuable moment, just when it had a shot at breaking through. And now the consequences are here. The offer exposes how fragile the league really is. Clark has leverage not because she demanded it, but because the WNBA forced her into a corner. They left her unprotected, undervalued, and unacknowledged. And in doing so, they gave someone like Portnoy an opening big enough to drive a billion-dollar vision through. This is what happens when ego outweighs strategy. When outdated ideas about equality and branding get in the way of progress. The league thought they could treat Clark like everyone else and still keep her. But stars don't stay where they're not celebrated. Especially not when 9 figures in full control are sitting on the other side of the table. And the worst part? Even if Clark stays, the damage is already done. The offer is public. The fans are talking. The sponsors are watching. Every current player and every future player is now thinking about what could happen if they reached Clark's level. If they became the next breakout star. The precedent has been set. You don't have to settle. You don't have to stick it out. There's another way now. Whether Clark takes the deal or not, the league's leadership is being forced to confront a future they've been trying to avoid. A future where players expect more than just a jersey and a seat on the bus. They expect investment, ownership, respect. And if they don't get it, there's now a model for what to do next. Caitlin Clark didn't start this fire, but she's the one holding the torch now. And everyone's waiting to see where she takes it. So, will she stay and carry the league that's done everything but carry her? Or will she take the deal, leave the old system behind, and build something entirely new? That decision will define not just her legacy, but the future of women's basketball. Drop a comment below. Should she stay or should she go? Would you watch a Clark-led league? And what does this say about how women's sports are being run? Hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next, because this isn't just drama. This is history being written. The WNBA doesn't want you to say it out loud, but the only reason they're relevant right now is Caitlin Clark. Every ticket sold out. Every jersey flying off shelves. Every broadcast setting records. All of it ties directly to her. She's not a piece of the puzzle. She is the puzzle. And now, someone outside the league is offering her the power to build something better from scratch. $100 million. It's not just a payday. It's a message. It's a warning. It's the sports world screaming, we see your value, even if your own league won't. And for the WNBA, that's terrifying. Because if Caitlin Clark accepts that offer, if she walks away from the WNBA and cashes in on her stardom to launch her own league, everything changes. The media doesn't follow the league. It follows her. The fans don't tune in for logos or history. They tune in to watch her play. She leaves? That spotlight leaves with her. The executives running the league right now, they gambled. They thought they could ride her popularity without giving her real power. They thought downplaying her, flattening her success, and pretending her presence didn't make them dependent would somehow keep the league balanced. What they didn't count on was someone like Portnoy stepping in, not just with cash, but with the infrastructure, the connections, and the timing to expose how shaky the foundation really is. Let's be honest, the WNBA was never built to handle a star of Caitlin Clark's magnitude, and it shows. From the officiating disasters to the media spin to the locker room tension, every week has been another reminder that the league wasn't ready, and worse, refused to get ready. Instead of building around her, they tried to keep her small. Instead of protecting her, they watched her get hit, literally and figuratively. And instead of letting her lead, they made it clear, know your place. But that approach doesn't work anymore, because now she has options, and not just symbolic ones, real, tangible, life-changing ones. A $100 million offer is more than a contract. It's an escape hatch. It's a shot at rewriting the system. She takes that deal, and suddenly she's not just a player. She's a founder, a boss, a power broker. Let's not forget what the WNBA has already failed to do. They didn't shield her from dangerous on-court behavior. They didn't speak up when veteran players went after her in the media. They didn't launch any meaningful campaigns centered around her impact. They didn't address the backlash, the targeting, or the double standards. And they certainly didn't adjust their structure to reflect the new reality she brought with her. Caitlin Clark changed the game, and the WNBA pretended like it was just business as usual. Now, they're watching the consequences of that mistake play out in real time. What Portnoy and his investors see is simple. Clark is the product. She's the movement. She's the future. And if the league that claims to champion women refuses to get behind that, fine, someone else will. And they did. Publicly. Boldly. With a check so large it makes staying feel like charity work. What would the WNBA even look like without her? That's the question no one in leadership wants to answer. But they should, because if Clark walks, that league takes a hit it might never recover from. You can't unring this bell. You can't go back to anonymity after you've been center stage. Let's talk about Commissioner Kathy Angelberg for a second. The woman at the top. The person who is supposed to steer this league into its next era. Instead, she fumbled the easiest layup in sports history. She had Caitlin Clark, and somehow managed to make her feel unsupported. Disposable, even. That's not just mismanagement. That's negligence. The critiques of Angelberg's leadership are loud and consistent. She's out of touch. She's defensive. She refuses to adapt. Instead of leaning into the heat and building around the league's biggest star, she doubled down on outdated messaging, pushed back against the hype, made it clear that no one player would define the league. But what if one should? You don't grow by ignoring your best asset. You grow by nurturing it, promoting it, building around it. That's how every major sports league became what it is. Michael Jordan was the NBA. Serena was tennis. Tiger was golf. Every era has its icon. The smart leagues leaned in. The WNBA ran in the other direction. And now, they're paying for it. It's not just the media buzzing. Players are talking. Sponsors are circling. Fans are asking the same question. Why wouldn't she leave? She owes the league nothing. She's already carried them. She's endured the cheap shots, the coded interviews, the bizarre officiating. She's shown up and performed. She's packed arenas in cities she doesn't even play in. She's selling out road games. Who else in the WNBA can do that? And what has she gotten in return? Thin applause. Backhanded compliments. And now, a desperate league hoping she doesn't realize just how powerful she's become. Too late. This is bigger than sports. This is about what happens when women step into their power and stop waiting for permission. Clark has already proven she doesn't need the WNBA. The WNBA needs her. And now, that dependency is exposed. The question isn't whether she's capable of leading her own league. She is. The question is whether she's ready to leave the old one behind. And honestly, can you blame her if she is? The fans would follow. The sponsors would follow. The cameras, the culture, the attention, it would all follow her. Because Caitlin Clark doesn't just have influence. She has gravity. And a league that let her twist in the wind might have just lit the match on its own downfall. Let's get real. Even if Clark turns down this offer, Even if she stays, the balance of power is forever shifted. She knows what she's worth now. And more importantly, so does everyone else. No more silence. No more downplaying. No more pretending she's just part of a rotation. From this moment forward, Caitlin Clark calls the shots. Whether she chooses to leave or chooses to stay, one thing is clear. She doesn't need the WNBA to succeed. But the WNBA absolutely, unequivocally, cannot succeed without her. So now it's a standoff. A $100 million line in the sand. One side is scrambling to hold on to control. The other is standing quietly, calmly, with every bit of leverage in hand. And the world's watching. What will she do? Stay and demand the change she deserves, or walk away and build something that never failed her in the first place? That's the choice in front of Caitlin Clark. And that choice could either spark a renaissance in women's sports, or burn the current structure to the ground. At this point, it's not just a sports story. It's a power struggle playing out in real time. And Caitlin Clark is standing right in the center of it, with the entire sports world holding its breath. The WNBA tried to keep things under control. They wanted to keep the narrative tidy. Caitlin's just another player, they insisted. One part of a growing league. But the moment that $100 million offer hit the news cycle, the mask slipped. This isn't business as usual. This is survival. Because if Clark walks, the fallout won't just be numbers and headlines. It'll be an identity crisis. A reckoning. This league built itself on the backs of talented, resilient women, but also built itself around scarcity. Around telling players, be grateful for what you get. Around telling fans, this is as good as it gets. And around telling stars like Clark, don't get too big. Now, they're finding out what happens when one of those stars does get too big and realizes she no longer needs to stay small. Let's be absolutely clear. Clark's rise wasn't accidental. She didn't luck into fame. She earned it. Her college career lit a fire under women's basketball like nothing we've seen in decades. Her style of play? Electric. Her stats? Ridiculous. Her fan base? Obsessed. She carried Iowa on her back and turned regular season matchups into must-watch events. And when she stepped into the WNBA, that momentum didn't fade. It exploded. Everywhere she went, tickets sold out. Markets that had struggled for years to fill seats were suddenly vibrant. People who never cared about the league before were streaming games, buying merch, and showing up. She moved the needle. But instead of capitalizing on it, the WNBA downplayed it. Leadership acted like it was just coincidence. Like the sudden burst in attention had nothing to do with the most talked-about player in the country joining the league. It's insulting. To her and to the fans. Because let's not sugarcoat this. People aren't showing up because they're suddenly discovering the brilliance of a decades-old league. They're showing up for her. She's the draw. She's the business model. She's the cultural moment. And she knows it now. Which makes the timing of Portnoy's offer even more brutal for the WNBA. Because this isn't just about dollars, it's about dignity. It's about respect. It's about giving the most valuable player in the league something the WNBA leadership refused to: power. With $100 million and the backing of deep-pocketed investors, Clark wouldn't just play. She'd own. She'd shape the vision. She'd build a league that prioritizes the players, the fans, and the momentum she created. That's the part that should terrify every exec in the WNBA. Because the only thing scarier than losing your biggest star is losing her to a better version of what you claim to be. And now that the possibilities on the table, even the players are starting to look sideways. Because if Caitlin can do it, if she can leave and make something new, what's stopping anyone else? There are other women in this league who've been underpaid, overworked, and largely ignored for years. They've been carrying this sport without mainstream attention, and they've seen how little support they get. Suddenly, there's an alternative. Suddenly, the idea of a new league with real money, real media backing, and real infrastructure doesn't sound so far-fetched. It sounds like freedom. And that's what this whole thing boils down to: freedom. Caitlin Clark finally has the freedom to say no more. No more being silenced. No more towing the company line. No more playing through coded criticism and backhanded compliments. No more asking for respect that should have been automatic. With one decision, she could rewrite the rules. And the league knows it. That's why the panic behind the scenes is so loud, even if they're pretending everything's fine. You can practically hear the emergency meetings, the PR scrambling, the league trying to figure out how to shift gears without admitting they were wrong. Because now, the spotlight they refuse to give Clark is shining directly on their leadership failures. Why didn't they build marketing campaigns around her? Why didn't they launch protections for their star players? Why didn't they address the targeting and tension earlier? Why didn't they treat her like the asset she so clearly is? The answer? Pride, control, insecurity. Take your pick. They wanted to hold on to the narrative, but the narrative broke loose. Now, they're stuck reacting to a story they should have been leading. And here's what makes it even worse. They still don't seem to get it. The public statements from a league have been vague, defensive, and disconnected from reality. The message is still, the WNBA is about all the players, not just one. And while that may sound noble, it's not how any successful league operates. Every league has its stars. And when one of them breaks through to cultural icon status, you lean in. You promote them, protect them, build around them. That's not favoritism. That's survival strategy. Instead, the WNBA tried to keep things fair. And in doing so, they made it clear. Being the most important figure in women's basketball doesn't guarantee you anything, not even respect. And now Clark gets to decide, stay loyal to the league that has repeatedly failed to back her, or take control of her own destiny. Neither choice is simple. Walking away would be historic, controversial. It would spark backlash from some corners and admiration from others. But staying? Staying would send a message, too, that the league can treat you like an afterthought and still expect you to carry them. There's no easy way forward, but there's a right one. And honestly, it looks a lot like the exit sign, because the WNBA had every chance to meet this moment, and they blew it. They had the best possible scenario dropped in their lap. A charismatic, generational talent who brought her own audience and made the league relevant overnight. And they treated her like a flash in the pan. Now she holds all the cards. No matter what happens next, Caitlin Clark has already changed the game. She's made it clear that athletes, especially women, don't have to wait for the system to catch up. They can step outside of it and build something better, something that works for them. And if the WNBA wants to survive this reckoning, they better move fast. Because this isn't just about one player anymore. It's about an entire sport on the verge of a revolution. A culture shift. A moment in time where everything can either evolve or implode. Caitlin Clark has been patient. She's been professional. She's played through it all. But this offer, this crossroads, it's a turning point. And whatever she decides, stay or go, will define more than her legacy. It'll define the future of women's basketball itself. So what would you do? Would you stay in a league that sidelined your value, hoping they'll finally change? Or would you take the reins, walk into a new era, and show them what they should have seen all along? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is Caitlin Clark the future of the WNBA, or the beginning of something entirely new? Hit subscribe, because this story, it's far from over.